Hi there, it's Jeanette and welcome to day 4 of my Christmas series for 2017. Today I am featuring a multi-layered scene. This will be going into my December daily album. So this first layer is a little window frame. You can see holly and berries, and then through the window you can see a little girl sleeping. So this is the first layer that will open up to reveal the full Christmas scene that is here. So you can see it is a multi-layered scene. I used a lot of different products from a lot of different companies to make this scene come together. It was a lot of fun, and it really was a work in progress. It progressed and layers were added as I worked. The focal image is this one from CC Designs. It's called Sleepy Cinnamon. I'm going to stamp that first onto some Neenah cardstock using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And then, because I want to paper piece this, I am going to take some pattern paper. I took some from an old paper pad I had from Lily of the Valley. If it's still available, I will leave a link, but just some Christmas themed paper. And I'm going to stamp the image onto those papers as well. And as I go through the process, you'll see how I layer them together to create a fun look. So this is always something fun to do when you have a lot of space on your image. If you have furniture, like in this case I have a chair, it was nice to have a sort of base color already to color onto. So you'll see how I did that a little further on. First we're going to do the Copic coloration. So I'm adding some shading here to her face. I have all the marker numbers listed at the bottom, and they are, for the most part, I really try to keep them in the exact order that I use them. But usually I will start either with my lightest marker or my second lightest marker, blend up with the darker shades, and then blend back down. For the hair, because I want to draw individual strands of hair, I'm just going to put the base color on and let it dry. Then I'll start on her PJs. I want her PJs to be white and red, but I still need to add a little bit of shading for the white part. So that's why I added the gray everywhere first on the whole PJ. Wherever I thought there would be shadows, I put the gray marker. And now I'm just going to color every other stripe with the red markers. And you get a really nice shade effect for that. I'm being really careful. The red markers do tend to bleed a little bit. If they do, I use my colorless blender to push that marker color back in, but it's always wise to be very careful and use a light touch. So once I have that darker shade on, I can go ahead and blend everything in the middle to get a nice graduated blend. And again, using that colorless blender to push any stray ink where it belongs. Now I'm going to start on her hair. I'm using some darker color now, drawing in the strands of her hair where I think there would be shadows, where I see a curl that's lying on top of another one. I create a shadow underneath it. Just moving back to those PJs, adding a little bit more shading. It's always better to go with a light touch and then add some more shading if you need it. I have an even darker color now that I'm adding to the darkest part of her hair, and you can see now it's starting to look shiny. Looks like there's some highlights there, and then I just continued blending with that lighter marker so it wasn't harsh at all. So once that was all done, that's all I had to color on that piece of cardstock. Now I'm going to start shading the chair. So you saw that I stamped it on this patterned paper. It actually doesn't have a pattern on it. It's just sort of a nice green color. And I'm just using a series of gray markers to add my shadows everywhere. And you can see how nicely it blends. Because it isn't Neenah cardstock, it's not as thick. You do sort of have to go over it a few times. You have to work it a little bit more to get the shading that you want, but you can see how fun that is and what a time saver that is to use some paper like this. So I'm adding shadows all around the little girl figure and then underneath the cushions. And I am using that colorless blender as if it was a like a shade. I am blending everything out so that it's nice and soft and diffuse and there's no harsh lines. And I just worked over and over again until the intensity of shadow was what I wanted. Now if this was Nita cardstock, you wouldn't probably have to work nearly as hard, but this paper is a little bit more porous and it sort of sucks up all the ink. Now originally I had thought I was going to use another one of those pattern papers for this little blanket on the top. In the end I thought it would be better just to stamp it on some Nina so that the blanket component could be white, and then the tassels could be red, and then to have the green and red holly and ivy motif at the top. So I'm just completing my blend there, and then I'm going to have to carefully cut that out. I'm also going to go ahead and color the table here on this other image. So I did go ahead, and you can see I stamped it another few times. This actually stamped image is going to serve as the base for everything else I'm going to glue on. So you'll see as I progress what I mean by that. I'm going to color the milk and cookies on this one so I can cut it out separately. I'm sorry, that's a little bit out of screen. So once I have everything colored in that I need, I'm going to cut everything out. So I have one image that serves as the base, and that's the one with the colored table. Then I have the chair cut out, and I glue that down onto the base. Then I glue on the little blanket on top of that, using a block to sort of hold everything down. This is the cookie plate. There's the milk. And then finally I will glue down the little girl onto the couch, and then finally that little pillow, which I did add a little bit of shading to. It's not included in the video, but just a little bit of shading with some gray marker. Then I'm going to prepare my page. So I have this really fun paper. This was from December Daily Album last year, Ali Edwards paper pack. I loved all the sort of stars and sort of strings. I thought it looked very Christmassy. I realized I needed more on the page to sort of fill it out. So this is a Christmas tree from Lawn Fawn's Christmas Dreams. And I also stamped out some presents from their Christmas Dreams stamp set, and I think maybe Cozy Winter as well. I will leave all the links to everything I used below, but basically I just went through my Lawn Fawn stamps and pulled out some present images. I'm going to color those all up. And this is just going to add a little bit more in to fill in my scene, because it ended up looking very empty. So I wanted to fill it up. I found this present sort of like a sticker type of thing. It has an adhesive foam on the other side, so it's going to stick up a little bit. I don't know where it's from. Honestly, I found it in my stash, but I'm sure you could find something very similar if you looked. I also stamped out another milk and cookie picture. I'm just going to use actually the cookies and the little note that says Dear Santa, because I preferred how they looked. Now for the tree, I am going to, I colored it all sort of in a light gray, or light green rather, marker, and then I found some little adhesive gems that were various colors, various sizes, so I sort of matched them all up. So that's the garland. It looks like balls and it's like 3D. The cozy is sort of a rubber die cut, I would say. It also was from the December Daily Album last year, so I found a good use for it. I really like how it looks with all the background paper. And now I'm just adhering all those components together. I did cut some of the presents apart so that I was able to layer them and sort of fill in that horizon there where the floor is, so it looks nice and full. There you can see I added the cookie plate with the little note, and I kept the glass of milk from the other stamp. So a lot of mixing and matching going on this page, which is actually, I love to do that. It's fun to sort of dig through your stash and find all kinds of things that you can then put together. So now I'm going to prepare the sort of second page, or the first page rather, the page that's going to sit on top of this. I'm using some dies from, I can't remember the name of the die set. I will link it below. So it is a beautiful sort of die cut window. So I cut that out, then I measured the length and width of that window, and then sort of centered it on my paper. And I used my ruler to figure out exactly where I needed that die to go, so that you're going to be able to see the little girl through the window. I then cut it out. I traced it on another piece of pattern paper, and then using my trimmer, I cut a rectangle that was 1/4 of an inch bigger on each side. So you're going to see when I put them together, when I flip it over, I have like a little groove, a little area where I can now glue in my window so that it's all flush. I'm going to attach a window box. It is from the same company. And then I wanted to dress it up a little bit. So this is an old Martha Stewart sort of holly or leaf punch that I have. I've had it for years. And I punched out two different cardstocks. One was a bit darker, one was a little bit lighter, and I'm going to layer that on the little window box to create something festive, to fill in my page a little bit, and again to give it some texture, dimension, make it more interesting. Once I have all those leaves glued down, I'm going to scatter some more adhesive gemstones, or enamel dots I guess they're called. And again, I just went through my stash on this one and started pulling out things I hadn't used, and just tried to mix and match everything. On the other side, I did cut out another window and another window box just to sort of dress up the back side of that. And now you can see how you put it together. You can see the little girl peeking through. I die cut the window frame again with some star paper because it was a little plain looking white. And then this is another embellishment from my December daily kit last year that I didn't use. So I'm going to glue that down. And I'm using the tonic glue. It's amazing, my favorite glue. I have these tiny little stars, or little wood veneer stars, and I thought they were a perfect accent to the paper. And again, to give it a little bit more bulk and dimension, I'm adding some shadow underneath the couch just to make it look a little bit more real. And then I decided I was still missing a little bit of something on the other side of the couch, or the other side of the chair. So this is a little dog stamp from Lawn Fawn's Christmas Dreams. I'm going to color that in. And there's also a little sort of bone with a bow. So I did stamp that out as well, and I'm going to color that in, and I'm going to die cut those out, and they will sort of sit at the bottom of her chair on the other side. So here you can see me coloring in that bone, and that just sort of finishes it off. And I think it's really cool that although these are from different companies, the images go together so well. I was really pleased with that. This was one of the projects that sort of just, I had an idea, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, what I was going to use, and just as I was making it, I was pulling in different stamps and dies, and it was just something that was created as I was going. I'm going to color in the tree a little bit more to give it some more depth. I did get a little bit of the marker on the enamel dots, but it came off with a colorless blender, so that was pretty cool. Going to add a little sentiment. This is from the Mama Elephant Merry Christmas Wishes. I'm going to just heat emboss it with some white ink. It says, "Let the spirit of love gently fill our hearts and home." I thought it looked really nice. It suited the page really nicely. So there it is. It's all done. The finished page and the page that goes on top of it. So thank you so much for joining me. I know it was a long video, but I had a lot to share with you. A lot to show you. This was so much fun to make. I hope it inspires you to create a scene like this with like 2 layers. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting. And that's it. So until next time, I'll let you go. Have a great day. A full list of supplies and links to all those supplies can be found below this video on YouTube, and you'll find more information on my blog. Thanks for watching.